can remember. I don't know if I like it or if I'm just used to it. But I do know this. Being lonely does things to you. Feeling shit and bitter and angry all the time just eats away at you.
What happened?
Hello, I am Andreas Rönnberg, also known as Rumple, and I'm the level designer and leader for Cry of Fear. And in this map, we added a camera sequence, and you may wonder why we added that. And that's because from the beginning we decided to have Cry of Fear as a simple mod. I mean, when I started the project, I wanted Cry of Fear to only be just a sick mod that I wanted to be really scary. And why you were taking photos was because Simon had like a psychosis or something, and he had killed his mother and went around taking photos of her. But we scrapped that later on, and we decided to just have this sequence to be a nice little thing, because having this sequence is scary because it makes you unable to know what will happen when you take photos, and I like that.
Hello, I'm James, or Minwy, and I'm the programmer for Cry of Fear. This nightmare level is pretty interesting, although it's by no means technically sophisticated. Like the rest of your weapons, your camera is shooting out invisible bullets, so to speak. When the bullet hits a wall or other object, it will check all entities in its immediate radius. If it finds the invisible object we place over the crosses, it triggers the event it's tied to, such as making the writing that's scrawled on the wall appear, or a hanging body or whatever. It's a simple solution for quite an interesting map.
Beta testing this mod was more than I asked for during the final stages of development. First of all, because it was so amazing to actually play the mod and see how everything worked out and was still getting worked on. But also because the mod hates me. I had so much trouble getting it to work because of bugs and whatnot, and no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't get it to function properly. This, on most part, was user error by me. I failed to update properly and generally lack any experience towards coding. My point is that you players and fans, I hope, have no idea how lucky you are to play this final version of Cry of Fear. The work that Andreas, James, Georgie, Stig and Ainda has put down into this mod is nothing short of awesome.
Hi, this is Stig, aka Dragonnor speaking, and I voice act Simon in Cry of Fear. Being a voice actor for Cry of Fear has been quite a journey, and I mean that literally. Cry of Fear was one of my first projects as a voice actor, and when I started working on the mod, my experience was somewhat iffy. Since there's a lot more work involved in switching out the lines in a choreographed cutscene than just switching out the audio, you'll notice a very distinct difference between the first scenes, which were also the first lines I got to work on when I joined, and the later ones when it comes to acting technique, as they're literally years apart in acting experience. But at the same time, it sounds like Simon goes from being somewhat naive to becoming more hardened as the game progresses, which makes for good character development. How did I get here?
This is the start map, and it was the first map to Cry of Fear that was ever created. From the beginning it was just using simple looking Half-Life textures with very low resolution, and later on I went to my capital city, Stockholm, where I went around taking photos and made my own custom textures to make it look really like Stockholm and have a really photorealistic look. Then later on I wanted to make the windows in the buildings to have their lights on, and I wanted to have people standing there and watching you, but I never added it because I didn't want to confuse the players too much in the beginning. I wanted it to stay kinda simple in the beginning, not have too much shit appearing.
Very early on in development we decided we wanted to have extensive unlockables. Somebody came up with the idea of custom hoodies, and this presented a problem to us. There are so many instances of the Simon model spread out across the models folder that it would be almost impossible to go through every single model and replace it with a different hoodie version each time. I came up with a simple solution of replacing every single instance of Simon's hoodie texture loaded into any kind of model with an external TGA texture. In this way we can have many combinations of clothes without using multiple models. This padlock puzzle is one of my favourites in the mod because it's so intricate. It relies on many variables. As you may have noticed, the number is actually randomly generated from 11111 to 9999. So that means you can't just play through the mod and then remember what the previous combination was next time you play through. As you well know, this puzzle relies on a couple of things: gathering the username and the password, which aren't quite randomly generated, but the username and password is picked from 32 different usernames and 32 different passwords, and they can be combined. Again, so you can't just play through the mod and do the puzzles without, actually properly doing it. We decided to do this because it's just the kind of, we want people to see what we've made. We don't like the idea of people just running through the mod remembering what the solutions are. We want people to actually see what we've done, especially Rumpel's work on the churchyard area where you get the username and password. It's very good mapping. We want people to experience it.
This map was from the beginning made by James Minwy, and it was intended to be a secondary route to the apartments, but we scrapped that because the map was never finished. So, and we also thought that it was unnecessary to have two routes and it would take too much of our time to make it. So I decided to extend the map instead and add this little small town that you run to with those small streets. And that part is actually a replica of a town in Stockholm called Gamla Stan. And also the square in this town is a replica as well. And it's called Stortorget. And the church there is called Storkyrkan. And actually those sounds from the clock sounds from Storkyrkan in the Cry Fair is real sounds from Storkyrkan in real life. And I head there only to record those sounds. That's how dedicated I am to this mod.
You'll notice that all of the notes you can read in the mod come up as fully bright models, and the reason for this is because there's a lot of kind of clutter in the mod. There's a lot of random papers scattered around, newspapers, bits of scrap and all that kind of thing. So to help players to easily identify what you can and can't read, we made the notes, just like the weapons, come up as full bright.
signal.
I'm actually very proud of the work I've done with the ladders in Cryophere. This was actually added very late in development. probably later than it should have been because it's quite a lot of work. This was after we started working with model-based cutscene cameras. If anyone's familiar with Half-Life mapping, they'll know that normally you have to use normal Half-Life entities and special objects that the camera will move to and from. That's very annoying to work with, and you don't really get a good representation or idea of what the finished product will look like until you've compiled the map and tested, etc, etc. So I developed a system whereby you animate the camera in 3ds Max and you see what's happening in the viewport there. You export the map to a DXF, import it into 3ds Max, and then you can fly the camera around as much as you like. Using this technology, I realised after looking at how shitty the ladder system is in Half-Life, where you just slide up and down, I decided I want to improve it by having a animated one. So I knocked up a quick animation, which actually ended up being used as the final thing with a few tweaks. This was actually inspired by Turok 2, which I played years and years and years ago, and that had a ladder system similar to that, whereby the screen would kind of shake around as if you were climbing up, and I was very impressed by that back at the time, and I just thought, why not?